Hi guys, this is Anna, and I thought I'll finally get down to that and record the very last part of my February, February, it's April now, books. I've purchased lots of books when I went to Russia. I have not recorded an English version of the third part because none of the books in that video has been translated into English. If you are interested, you can just look at the Russian one. And in today's video, it's kind of a video of two halves. Half has been translated and the other one has not. So I'll probably start with the one which wasn't. Well, I'm not sure. If I find a translation, what I will do is I will insert a picture. So I'll start with Tanks in Prague and Gioconda in Moscow. That's about life in the Soviet Union in the 1970s. And in the 1970s, Mona Lisa, or Gioconda, she also known, was brought into Moscow for the exhibition. I was showing off to people. I remember my grandfather always said that he went to see it, for example. So it shows you sort of the artsy theatre lovers life in the 1970s in Moscow. And I do like the social chronicles, so I thought I'll give it a go. This book has been such a pain to find. It took me like 2 years, or my mom 2 years, to actually find it, because maybe she wasn't looking for it that well, but it's been a while. So finally, when I went to Russia, I picked it up. And then, as you know, I grew up in St. Petersburg. I think I have mentioned this before in this channel, and I'm really sad to say what happened yesterday with the terrorist act. It's like within the last 3 weeks, it happened in London and in St. Petersburg, like the two cities which I can consider my hometowns. It's just really sad. Well, during World War II in St. Petersburg, there was a siege, or blockade as we call it in Russian, which lasted well over a year, nearly 3 years. And a lot of people have died during the time from starvation. People had to eat the pets, they had to eat vermins, and there were some cases of cannibalism as well. It was completely surrounded by the Germans, so they couldn't take anyone out of the city or bring any food in, and people were in absolutely dire circumstances. People who have survived it, they have left lots of diaries. And because of the archives being gradually open as well, there's a lot more of the memoir literature being published. And because I have the personal connection, I grew up in that place. When I was at school, we went to see the people who have survived it, so they were like in the late 80s, listen to their stories. I'm really interested, so I got my hands on 3 out of 4. Unfortunately, I couldn't find the very first volume, but I got volume number 2 that has definitely not been translated into English, and it talks about day-to-day life. So it's printed from the verbal accounts of the people who survived it during the 900 days of torture, of starvation, of constantly being bombed. Those books have photographs of the food rationings, they have personal photographs of people who died, or the parents of the people who had died in the war, photographs of personal correspondence. So I have this is volume 2, this is volume 3, and I also have a volume 4. And it's a proper non-fiction. It has a lots and lots of notes at the back if you're interested. That will not be possible for me, I know, to get my hands on recommended literature, simply because I don't live in Russia. You need to have permissions to enter certain places in the archives. But I just want to show that this is the chronicle of everyday life. This is how women used to do the laundry. As I've said, to me, that is really fascinating. It also has, I also got 2 books. I don't think they have been translated. So this is the guy who was a child, and he survived it, and how he warred, and he was spying on the Germans during the time. And a budding journalist who later became a fully grown journalist. So this is just personal memoirs which have now been published. This is one of the new Russian publishers. They're independent and they specialize on publishing memoirs. So there were like 20 in the selection. I just picked 2 based on the blurb at the back I found interesting. Then I wanted a little bit more about the Russian language and the changes the Russian language is undergoing, and the influence of religion or lack of the religion in the Soviet time. So I went to this specialized bookshop in Russia, and like, they do employ people who have masters, say, in linguistics, as consultants, really well-read, really educational, well-educated, and they have recommended that I get 2 books by the St. Petersburg professor. She teaches philology and linguistics. So this one is Historical Metamorphosis of Russian Linguistics, and this one is the same person, is Conversations and Silence, and neither of them have been translated, but those are basically reprints of her lectures if you do the course in St. Petersburg State University. The final book in this first half is the one I've seen in the Russian BookTube. It has not been translated, unfortunately, English, and those are memoirs of lots and lots of Russian authors about their nannies, because as you read Russian classics you will realize that most of them come from quite well-to-do families, and they were not really brought up by their mothers, they were brought up by their nannies, and they developed a really lovely personal relationship with them. So here's the collection of memoirs those Russian authors left with regards to the nannies, and this book includes, from the ones you will know, someone like Alexander Pushkin, Alexander Gertsin, he has been translated, Sergei Solovyov, some of his work has been translated, Andrei Dostoevsky and Fyodor Dostoevsky. Who else has been translated from the list? Modest Mussorgsky, he is a Russian composer. Andrei Leskov, he has been translated. A lot of Russian prominent families who married into the royal family as well. Ivan Bunin, he is a Russian poet. Who else has been translated? Alexander Blok has definitely been translated. Anastasia Tsvetaeva and Aksakov. I'm just really looking forward to this. I think this will be an interesting read. So this concludes the first part of this. The second one I'm going to show you is all to do with just one author. And the author I'm going to talk about is Alexander Solzhenitsyn. You know that in December I have read his Archipelago Gulag and I really enjoyed it. So I'm on a quest to collect his complete works published by just one publisher. It's a publisher who he personally worked with before he died, and now his trust, run by his widow, is collaborating with. I don't have everything. I bought 10 out of 30 books. I have volume number 1, and that is his short stories and his some chronicles. I have volume number 2, and that's in the first circle. I think it's been translated into English. And I have the Cancer Ward, which I have read several times before, and I have it in a different edition and I really like. I think this is volume number 4 in this series, so I'm missing volume number 3. I then have his Red Whale, which I want to collect all of it, but I don't have all of it. So I have March 1917, the first 2 books, this book 1 and book 2. So that's March. Continuing with the Red Whale, I also have April, 2 volumes as well. So that's 4 books within one series, then 4 more. I don't have August, for example, 1917. That's impossible to get. I also have some of his earlier short stories, volume on that. And I have 200 Years Together. The volumes 1 and volume 2. Volume 1 is before the Russian Revolution, and volume 2 is 200 after the 1917 revolution. So that deals with the history of Russia. He's not a proper historian, like I do understand that, I'm not completely delusional, but I do like the way he has his narration, because he has personal experience, and I do like to see personal experience in the books. So yeah, that's concluding video from February purchases. I have so many books I got in English. In March I will be splitting those hauls up as well, but the next video you're gonna see from me will be my current reads and my TBR for April, and then my March wrap up, because March was a much better reading month for me. So I'll see you guys soon. Thank you, bye.